Let's solve it, Claude.
That's a really good question, and it's something really to think about, and especially in the context of a build the wall, of Trump saying he wants to build the wall. This is what this is a return to, is the return of borders and the return of nationalism. And I just don't, I just don't think that's really a viable way forward. I don't know. I hate to be such a maintainer of the status quo, but I mean it is. For the EU to break up, I think bodes nothing but disaster. And I'm usually, like I've said in class, I'm not one to be ever scared, like, ooh, this is scary, but that is actually really scary. Yeah, that's really scary, I think. Yeah.
On the border of the Yukon there, it comes down to hit the panhandle.
Yeah.
That point, that, Louise Day, would that have been a well-defined point where he starts that southern?
No, it wasn't, and so there was a big question, and so let's see if I've got that.
So he'd just pick a mountain and sort of say, well, that's the start of
the
range?
And so this is what my book project, a lot of it is going to be on, going through those debates over what mountains are they constituting the tops of the mountains, right? So there's volumes of sources of the diplomats sort of debating, oh, did the Russians mean this inlet in the 1825 treaty, or might they have meant this other one? So it's nothing but that sort of, what is it with the angels on the pinhead? It's just sort of these sort of splitting hairs, absolute hair-splitting sort of discussions about it.
Are there Russian documents on this?
Yeah, well, we have the treaties. Yeah, the Russians aren't. So I had just gone to a conference in Alaska, and there were a lot of Alaskan historians that study Russian history in Alaska, and there isn't much sources. And if there are sources, a lot of them are in Cyrillic, which presents an enormous problem, and Russian and Cyrillic, which presents an enormous problem of historians trying to. So yeah, no, that's another field that I think historians there's work to be done, certainly in Alaskan history. It's truly the final frontier.
The Russians, presumably the guys who actually, presumably there were some Russians who did.
Absolutely, no, there was Russian civilization in Alaska, yeah.
So they'd have survey records.
Absolutely, yeah. And so there isn't much. It's sort of very, it's slim pickings in that field. Yeah, but it is interesting, and I can't read Russian, but Sitka, Alaska was the sort of Russian capital. And you'd be surprised at just how Russian Alaska is. It really is. It's sort of like northern Saskatchewan, or sort of north of Saskatoon. It's very Ukrainian. It's just like Alaska is very, very Russian. It was surprising. The first time I had been there was this September. Yeah.
So I note, and I'm happy that you kind of deplore Brexit and all the, kind of fragmentization of Europe and fragmentization of the world. Apart from Donald Trump, and assuming that his term is only for 4 years, would you support further North American integration?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the North American Free Trade Agreement. I mean, as much as Donald. This is something that takes us way far afield. But I think that by and large, the North American Free Trade Agreement is only good it makes for a stronger Mexico, it makes for a stronger Canada, and it makes for a stronger United States. But there are certainly losers in these trade agreements. I mean, so if I don't remember, it's one of those things you might be too young to remember, but in 2008, 2009, there were all of those killings in Ciudad de Juarez. The Maquiladora problem, there's a problem of serial killers in Ciudad de Juarez killing women, that's called femicides. So globalization produces all manner of problems, right? We were talking about in our class, for instance, the high cost of low prices. So when you're not paying people to sort of make your goods, it's like the exploitation of labor, environmental degradation, and all of that sort of thing. So globalization certainly creates its own set of problems. But I'm willing to believe, or I want to believe, that those problems that it's created are far less of problems than would be if it weren't that way. So.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. It's been great to be here.